Hello, hello, hello. Hi, it's Dina. I hope you're doing well. I hope your day is going well. If you start your YouTube channel and you start doing videos every day, I can come check on you and see how you're doing. So, if we are people who might be friends, please leave your comment in below and let me know that you have a channel, and I'll come check you out. And maybe, we'll have some simpatico feelings. So, um, this is a series that I'm working on. I like to think of it as an Advent series instead of a Vlogmas series. I like to think of myself as getting ready for the year ahead, getting ready for what's coming, counting down so that I can make some good resolutions later. And I know the best way to do that is to figure out what kind of changes I need to make and what's holding me back from just making those changes every day in my life. So this series is about some of the issues that I've uncovered, that I've confronted, either that I have or I fight to not have, if that makes sense. So in my real world, outside of this little box that you see in front of you, the best way to think of what I do is as a process analyst. It means that people tell me if they're having problems with something. It could be company policies, it can be personal, it could be writing a paper, it could be applying for a job, it could be dealing with a person in your life, it could be why your company's not working well. It could be a computer problem that you've not been able to fix if you're a computer analyst. It doesn't matter what your problem is. What my specialization is I listen very well. And so I hear you tell me your problem, and then I have a lot of background in ways that I can ask you questions that will get to the bottom of your problem, and then you talk back, and then when your answers, then I hear your answers and I feed them back to you, and basically you figure your own problem out because someone is listening so well to you. That's what I do. So what I have found is that people who have habits, bad habits, or they can't develop good ones, it's because there's a reason. There are reasons. And a lot of times they will blame themselves for these things. They will take all this on themselves and they say, well, I'm a bad person, or yesterday, I'm a bad housekeeper, or something like that. And they take the judgments of others on themselves without actually thinking, wait a minute, why am I? Why could I not be a good one? What would be stopping me from being a good one? And quite often it's that we just don't have the desire to. We recognize life is too short. We recognize there are 24 hours in every day, and we have to make the most of those. And we just don't care, if there's some dust, whatever, that we just don't care. We don't care if there's a few dishes in the sink. We don't care. We live with that. We have more to live with and more to live for, and more information coming at us than any generation ever in the history of that we know about in the history of this earth. So, the thing I'd like to talk about today is, and forgive myself for, and help you forgive yourself for, is being late, or thinking about being late, or worrying about being late all the time. So, if you find that you are late, there are several possible reasons that you might be consistently late. One of them is you may, like I do, have something called dyscalculia, and you may not know it. Dyscalculia is sort of like dyslexia, but it affects people with numbers and spatial relations and visualization. So adults don't get diagnosed for this, and children barely do. I never did. there's still multiplication tables I don't know. If you start out with my 8s, I get very nervous. So things like I can't visualize in my head. I don't know how much of that is post-traumatic stress trauma and how much of it is dyscalculia, but it doesn't help, I'll tell you. Something about if you can't play a game of chess because you cannot visualize moves in advance. Maybe you can't see images in your head. All right, well, I didn't even know people could see images in their head until I got married. And my husband was a artist, and he could see, and he would look up and he would look down and draw. And I said one day, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I have a picture of it up here, and then I'm just copying from the picture in my head." And I said, "What do you mean you have a picture up there?" It was news to me that anyone could have pictures in their brain, you know. So some of us don't. And if you're one of those people, you might find it especially difficult dealing with clocks, dealing with time as a spatial relation thing. I don't know if that makes sense. But one thing does affect another. Another reason you might have problems with time is that you might have a brain that just doesn't realize things take time. There are some diagnoses, and I don't want to diagnose people, but there's some spectrum disorders that really interfere with a person's ability to think about consequences and to think about, well, if this happens, then I have to do this, and if that happens, then I have to do that. And so there's a medium ground to that. People like me who have some childhood issues, we overthink everything. We are constantly worrying about consequences. And that's one problem. But then there are other people who don't seem to be able to think about consequences or consider them at all. And in this case, if you have a problem with that, you may not be thinking, "Oh, it's going to take me 5 minutes to do this. Oh, if I want to go someplace, it's going to take me 5 minutes to get out of the house. It's going to take me 10 minutes to walk there to this place. It's going to take me..." You may not be thinking that way. And so that may be one of the things that a challenge for you would be. And like me, I really have to break this down, and I have to work backwards from the time I have to do something. I have plans tonight at 6. They're a little mushy, but I should be there at 6. And so I know that in order to be there at 6, I need to have had some dinner first. I need to have cooked my dinner first. I need to have digested a little bit, so if anything goes wrong here, it doesn't upset my digestive system. So I probably need to start eating about 4:30, 4:45 or something, if I need to be there at 6. And so it's a social meeting. It's a video kind of meeting. It's a Second Life role play, actually, I can tell you, because I'm doing that stuff on my channel too. So in order to be there, I have to, and not be late, I really have to think backwards, and I have to say, okay, that means I have to be doing these things by 4:30, which means I can do other things up to that time, but at that point, I really have to get in gear, or else I will be late. And so that is a reason that you might find yourself being late, is that you don't want to think about going to this place. You don't want to think about that obligation until 5 minutes before you have to be there. If it's a work meeting, you don't want to think about that work meeting. You don't want to take another hour out of your day to just, it's easier to be 10 minutes late, So you have to make those judgment calls. You have to say, am I really willing? Is it really worth the amount of time and energy and forethinking it takes? Or is it just okay for me to be a little late? And shall I make people understand? You know, should I expect just some understanding from others that this is life? And I guess it's all up to you in your particular situation. And so finally, there is one other reason that I have encountered that I don't do something at the time someone wants me to, or maybe it's expected that I do it. And that is because it's not the right time. Um, it may be a feeling that I have. It may be something that makes me not want to leave the house while it's raining very hard. It may be something that is, making me constantly, oh, I just can't seem to put things together this morning. I've forgotten this and I can't find that, and this is not where I expected it to be, and my brain is a mess. And honey, if your brain is a mess, the last place you need to be is behind the wheel of an automobile. So that means it's probably not the right time for you to be leaving. So forgive yourself and say, okay, what's really going on here? Let me sit down and breathe and see what's happening here. Sometimes there's just something telling you not to do something at that time, and you have to respect that. Well, I don't say you have to respect it, but in my case, as long as I'm cycling in a good level, I'm feeling good energy directing my choices, then I want to listen to it. Now, if you're thinking of committing yourself to the earth or whatever, don't listen to that. That's just crap. It's just crap. Just you're cycling too low. You're making friends with things you shouldn't be making friends with. You're denying yourself pleasure. You're denying yourself joy. You're not raising yourself. Just raise yourself. Then you can trust your instincts better. Socrates, an old Greek philosopher, he used to stand outside a party before he would go in. And he would stand on one leg. And he would just be standing outside the party and not talking to anybody. People would just walk inside and they'd say, oh yeah, Socrates is coming. He's standing outside. And they just got used to it. And Socrates would go into the party and people would say, why were you standing outside on one leg? What the heck was that all about? And he would say, I was waiting for my daimon to tell me when it was time to enter. And in daimon, in ancient Greek, it's more like spirit. It's not demon. It's where demon, the word in Latin, coming from that area. But daimon in Greek is just your energy, your feeling, your guiding spirit. So he would just stand outside on one leg and go in when he felt like it was time to go. So if you find yourself being late, forgive yourself, number one. Number two, try to think about why you're being late. And if you really want to be on time to those things that people are giving you such hassle about, or if maybe you just want to make different commitments, or maybe sort of, as the new year comes, just let some people go, let some commitments go, Yeah. If you can, try to find a video called Let Them, where people are reading this wonderful poetry piece that someone has written. But please, just let them. Maybe don't try to push yourself so hard to get to a meeting anymore if you're so worried about going in the first place that it's causing you so much anxiety you have to prepare 4 hours ahead of getting there, not to be late. That's all I'm saying. Take care of yourselves. I hope you start your YouTube channels. I hope you get going. Like Prince said, do we mark you present or do we mark you late? Positivity. See you tomorrow. Be free.